Oh, so
Yeah.
can you stop? I just wanted to ask about when in a contract it says, agrees to pay taxes, submit any deductions payable by law, including but not limited to. When you said something about including in a contract, nid, nid, what is that word? Eliminates
Yep.
the stuff before it.
The good. Yeah. So the maxim is the inclusion of one is the exclusion of all others. Now, in wording contracts, you can use the word include if you also intend on you also have to intend on having it like including but not limited to. So the way that it's worded is not wrong. It's if there was a something like included and then it didn't say but not
But
limited
not
to,
limited to.
then whatever gets said is all that can be. But
Hmm.
when you open it up like that, it does provide you with the ability to to add other parameters to that inclusion. Good question.
Yeah, but it's just very wordy. Like, I mean, it
Yes.
goes agrees to pay any and all taxes and submit all deductions payable as prescribed by law, including but not limited. Now, I don't like that by law either,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not in by law. I'm
Right.
in, yeah, that because that's actually legalese, not law.
Well, and that's it, it is good to note that. I'm not sure that you'll need to in this case. What's kind of nice is that if you do talk about law in the context in that context on this contract, what's nice is that they may try to engage with you in legalese,
Yeah.
which is wonderful because the contract says that no, 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 this has to be in law. And courts of law are they that is far different from civil court. And if
Oh.
there's a dispute between you and him, it's going to go to civil court, which is not a court of law.
Uh-huh.
So nice. It's kind of nice to have. Hey, Maureen, how's it going? What a
Well,
beautiful hat.
oh, nice.
You're muted though, my dear.
I'll
Yeah,
just
you're
finish this
muted.
up because
Go ahead. Yeah.
we had
Yeah,
switched
no,
it
no,
up.
no, please. Go ahead. I want to just be in with whatever's happening.
I just want to
Yeah.
finish this up quickly. But
Yeah.
we had changed it from Audrey agrees to uphold obligations to statutory bodies corporate.
Yes.
So all of this gobbledygook that was in here, include but not limited to GST, employment insurance, income tax, Canada pension contribution, and other remittances. But like, I mean,
Yep. Again, you've summarized that with obligations to bodies corporate.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's just that he's not understanding that. So what would you say to someone who wouldn't understand that?
Yeah.
What does
Well,
that?
yeah. I
That's
would
a
I would
boost.
communicate it. Yeah, I would just communicate it as don't worry. The obligations
Or mine.
that and if you wanted to list a bunch off for his own, you know, whatever it is that he's got going on, whatever bid for control he's got, right? Go ahead, list them. It doesn't affect the fact
Mhm.
that you will be taking care of all of your obligations to the statutory bodies, which is zero,
Mhm.
because you don't have any obligation to them whatsoever. He just
Yeah,
wants to know that any obligations that may be present are
yeah,
something you're going to take care of.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
in the next sentence, I definitely say this indemnifies and saves harmless and his associates or assignees from any responsibilities.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So that just kind of takes it away from, yeah. Okay.
Yep. He
But
has, yeah, he will not be held responsible for any obligations. That's right.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I had that right
Yeah.
when I talked to him, because then, um, because I don't want all the wordy gobbledygook. It's
Oh,
just
of course.
words.
Yeah. of course.
Tell me what the context of this is. Just briefly. I don't need to know much, but I just want to know what it's in reference to.
I'm a caregiver,
Oh, okay.
and it's an agreement between his son and I on my obligations, my pay,
Yeah.
his obligations, stuff like that. And one of them was he doesn't, because I'm not in the, and he knows that I'm not paying taxes, right? So he owns quite a big corporation. He owns a lot of auction markets, 7 to be exact, in different locations all over the country here. And so he has a lot of money invested, right? And so he doesn't want it to come back and bite him that I don't pay my taxes. Right?
That's good to know, because, that may be arising with Ron and I within the next 10 years, or the 5 years, really at any time.
Yeah. But he just
Because in
wrote
order to
in
stay
there.
here, we would need a caregiver.
Yeah. Well, I'm just
I
saying
get
that
it.
within
Yeah.
this,
No
he
liability.
says, I agree to pay all my, taxes and submit my deductions and all
Right.
of that. And it's
Yeah.
GST, employment insurance, blah, blah, blah. But I've simplified it to Audrey agrees to uphold obligation to statutory bodies corporate.
Oh, okay.
And that's all of the things
that's great.
Yeah.
That he wants. So he does that, and so that protects him. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. But he wants to write it all in, you know what I mean?
Yeah. He wants to itemize it.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah. And so then the next sentence, for me was his sentence. This indemnifies and saves harmless, what's his name, as his assignees of any responsibility. So
why wouldn't that cover everything? Yeah.
It saves his ass, right? And
I want to start thinking this way. You know what I mean? This is all good for me. I'm interested in all of it. Yeah. So
because it is all my responsibility to pay what I need to pay, and I'm not responsible for to pay anything to them because
and that's not none of his business. That doesn't have anything to do with him.
That is true, but here in Canada, when me as a self-employed, I have to pay all my taxes and my employment insurance and blah, 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 all of that. And he pays for some, as an employee, he pays some taxes for me too.
As an employer, he pays some taxes.
Yes.
He's a portion of it. I'm familiar with that.
So, but I'm actually a subcontractor to him.
Yeah.
I'm not an employee. I'm a subcontractor. So I have to take care of all of that kind of stuff. Absolutely. I know that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But on my end, I know that I owe nothing to corporate Canada.
Right.
Right. I know how that works. Whereas he's always so scared. I got to pay my taxes. I got to pay my, this, I got to pay that. So he's on that fear realm still of they have authority. And I'm on this where they don't have any authority over me. Right. So it is that gap
and this is what we'll all meet.
Yeah. Eventually we'll all get there.
Yeah. Some form of this. Hopefully I'll live long enough to do this. I think it's a great statement. So
I've already got a little bit of a map. I've been able to help out a few businesses here and there over the last little while. And as I'm working on that, I'm finding opportunities to help people like in your situation, Maureen, where you don't have employment income coming in. And yet you have, you have some that is in savings, and you want to be able to help extract that out of the system so that you're not exposed to the risk of holding on to a collapsing dollar. It's fascinating. What I'm learning about how these trusts work is that you can create that trust and you can just literally hose the legal entity for all it's worth. And it's the trust that now owns everything. So it's kind of weird, but in a sense, Klaus Schwab was telling us the path to happiness is in owning nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But when the trust owns it and you control the trust,
Yeah.
now you can act as beneficiary and trustee at the same time. So what we can do to help you do the same thing, even though the employment situation and your income situation is very different from what Audrey's describing, we can still set this up so that your obligations to the state are properly defined and followed.
That's my end point. My daughter now wants to start. She just got her QuickBook certification. And she's got a degree in math. She's really this brilliant math person, even though she's been through, you can't believe what she's been through as far as diagnosis and schizophrenia and, you know, bipolar and severe depression and all these things that really affect the brain. But somehow she's been able to, you know, finish her degree in math, which was many years ago, but now she got an AA in accounting, and she now just did her QuickBooks. And even though she's a very, she's not business savvy, her husband is, and they want to set up their own business. And I want him to see. I want.
We're so good at projecting what we want on others.
I want. The monster I want.
I want to live my desired successes through you.
Yes. And why aren't you cooperating? But I wanted to offer him. I wanted to talk to him a little bit because he's a very savvy guy. He's a kick. I wanted to offer him to have this, you know, hey, what do you think about crypto and that whole alternative kind of thing and the coins and the way of doing business. And I'd love to offer him some kind of consultation with you, or I'd love to have him do my investing in crypto on an ongoing basis. That's kind of what I want. And for him to handle my affairs, but handle them in the way that I want them handled, not in the way that he wants them handled. Now, how do I do that without, see, I've discovered something about me as mild-mannered as I appear. That monster I want is in there, and it makes demands when I talk, and I don't even know that there's a demand in my field. You know, to listen to me, to be heard, to be appreciated. So that demand is there, and I want to become more and more aware of it. Of this, as your like little waif image that I have.
Yeah, as you were speaking there.
So,
it is interesting as you were speaking there, Maureen, about the I want, right? I'm thinking, I manifest that this is going to happen.
This is happening.
That's a very different thing than I want, isn't it?
Yeah. Because like
very different.
You can manifest what you feel you want in your life, right? And it's not as demanding.
This is brilliant conversation. This is exactly what I went through last year with my back. Like I would wake up in the morning and just be like, I am so fucking sick and tired of being sore all the time. I can't move. My leg is, I'm dragging my leg behind me down the hallway, cussing and swearing at myself.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, granted, I had a herniated disc and I didn't go for any medical intervention. So I kind of chose a tougher route as it was. But it was when I knew when I was having a good day or a bad day, and it all had to do with the language I spoke when my eyes woke up and I was feeling the pain, right? It boiled down to knowing, wait a second, I'm a healing machine. I just naturally heal. That's what happens. Our bodies are in their natural state. They are in a healing environment with which they can thrive. And by telling myself that's what this vessel is capable of, those were the better days. Fancy that. So true.
So, yeah, that kind of like undercurrent of a reaction to the way for the defense that's unconscious. Anyway, blah, blah. So I'm just like trying to do that and not trying, but actually trying to become more aware of it. I think becoming more aware and letting the pain of whatever that is, physical, emotional.
This is fascinating. I wanted to talk about the awesome new things. Like we saw some new price action this week, and I wanted to chat about that. But this is really good.
No, let's talk about that. It will relate.
We will.
Yeah.
We will. But I want to be. You're bringing up something that is just in total line with something that I've been working on this week in particular. Very, very focused, and that is definitions. You know, we're building constitutions here. We've got people in our community who've taken the Bill of Rights for Virginia from 1776. This was before the Declaration of Independence was even written. I printed off the Virginia Bill of Rights for 1776 and I gave it to them. And they took it home, and I don't know whether they have yet or not, but I told them, take this home and you make notes in the margins. Scribble out what it is that you want. You know, we just talked about how important it is for us to put our mind in the state of what it is that we already envision having present in our minds. That's that manifestation. Okay, so they don't know how to manifest, but I do know how to get them to do the thing that manifests. And that is when you're writing. And I want to make sure that they are manifesting this by going home and writing notes in those margins. Because when they bring those notes back to the meeting, we together can all establish a greater sense of governance over our lives. Well, in the paperwork, we're going to be using words that a lot of people are not familiar with. And so we need to create definitions of these things. And that's been my focus this week. So I'm going to just share with you a few of these definitions so that you can get an idea of what these words are supposed to mean in their original sense. So association with a capital A, because there's a difference when the word is used in a different context. Yeah. So here we go. Shall mean the Sullivan Meets Private Membership Association, a private, non-statutory assembly, little a, of conscious beings who voluntarily engage in mutual trade, governed by the shared agreements and principles with good faith, mutual benefit, and customary mercantile practices under natural law, for purposes such as exchanging goods or services as signified in the capacities outlined in the Articles of Association. And then that references, there's another body of paperwork that accompanies, similar to, you have the Constitution and then you've got your amendments, right?
Right.
Similar to that, where we have a Constitution and then the Articles of Association are simply giving the parameters by which people associate within this capital A association. Agency.
Wait a minute, did you do this?
Yeah.
Is this part of your because remember in the last track, Jacqueline talks about we're being of light and sound. That's what, I don't know if you got that last track, but at any rate, the word becomes the sound to me. And when you say the word, you create the frequency of the thing itself, like Plato talks about, that thrice removed from the truth kind of thing. So in you defining it, even though it's removed from the original conceptual idea, it's how it's embodied. It's embodied in the sense of our limited understanding. Let me put it that way, which will change over time.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes. And in answer to your question, yeah, this is the work that I'm doing with my private clients.
Wow.
Yeah. So we create these associations simply on paper in the sense that we've got something that provides clarity for the members who are associating with each other.
And it's informed consent.
And yeah, exactly. And what's interesting is that there is boilerplate, what we call that precedent in law, where a court has ruled that informed consent, that it extends to beyond whatever you present. That informed consent, for the consent to be informed, that they should also be presented anything they should know, not just what they want to know.
Which is very different than the thing of like what you don't know. What was that thing of what you don't know? You don't get to be, well, I can't remember. It's like nobody has to tell you what you don't know. What is that?
The maxim of law is let the deceived be deceived.
Mm-hmm. So when you say informed consent, it's like something that negates that and says, if you're asking me to, on a document that I need, if I'm saying I want informed consent, then you have to tell me what I don't know. Is that correct? Yeah. Or am I off on that?
It's if any harm were to come to someone and they were to take it to a court of law, it's harm, loss, or damage. Those are the three criteria that activate the necessity for a claim. And claims are the highest order of law. People say, oh, legislation, we got this act, or we got this bill, or we got this code that we have to follow. None of that has any effect over the highest order of law, which is a claim.
Because that's kind of like practice. Is that right?
That's correct. That's right. The practice is that we don't have to do anything as an agency for the enforcement of law. They don't lift a finger unless there's a claim.
Mm-hmm.
And the claim must have one of three harms. And so harm, that's like a physical harm. You could harm a business. You can harm people's property. That's usually loss or damage. But those three things, harm, loss, or damage.
Harm?
Harm. Like
harm.
Yeah.
Harm.
Yes.
So let's take Audrey's thing that she's setting up for her employer.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be a claim that might happen that her employer is so
worried
being cautious about? Yeah.
That's a great question. What do you think, Audrey? What is he so scared about?
He's so scared that I'm not going to pay taxes and that he's going to have to pay my taxes.
Right. Yeah. So in the contract, you've covered that now.
I think I have, yeah.
Well, you have, because here we come back again. The highest order of law is a claim. The next highest order is a contract.
Or an agreement, right?
That's right. An agreement made. And then a contract is simply something that there's the contract that you have with him that is independent of the writing of this capital C contract.
Mm.
Because a contract is not a piece of paper. A contract is not like ink does not magically make a contract. Contract is done no differently than there being, that like this here, right here, we are contracting together, and you are choosing to stay on the call simply because I'm delivering my side of the contract. Like, that's the basis of this interaction. Obviously, there's a lot more to our relationship. But
But it
in
isn't.
law, we're accomplishing contract.
It's an interaction rather than, and it could exist complexity than was in the contract. Does then
Yeah,
the practice of that contract take precedence over what is written?
that's right. So, yes. So, what takes precedent is what is agreed. What gets written is supposed to support what got agreed.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't create the effect and the force of the contract. The force of the contract is created by the individuals who are agreeing to the terms and conditions of the contract. That's where the jurisdiction lies. The jurisdiction never lies on a piece of paper with ink. That right there is exactly how you get into a situation where you are ruled by a tyrant. Because what do? It's all death by decree. Legalized murder is what it is.
So an example of that would be, just because I want to understand this, Paul, like we had a boundary issue when I first lived here. People had built things on somebody else's property that was behind them. The boundary, they violated the boundary. And then, so that's the practice. And because nothing was done for years, then there's, I don't know, there's some I didn't get into it, but then they had a right to that property because he hadn't kicked them off. His non-action was consent.
That's what we call implied consent.
Implied consent, yeah.
And that's why politicians today who are actively, like, let's just address this for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Trump, specifically, RFK Jr., specifically, have been fully notified of the harm, loss, and damage being created by the experimental messenger RNA technology, also known as CRISPR technology, which is specifically engineered to adulterate human DNA. That they have been fully notified of the harm, loss, and damage of this experimental bioweapon.
Okay.
And every single day that goes by, they are accomplices in the greatest crime against humanity we have ever witnessed. And every single day that goes by, they are 100% guilty. So how is it that we could possibly have such worldwide global terrorists who commit premeditated mass murder with an experimental bioweapon of mass destruction by injecting a toxin into people's bloodstreams? How is it that they could do that? It's only through consent.
People go up and offer their arm.
Yes, they'll roll up their sleeve and say, "Give me my Big Mac." And this is the thing. A lot of people don't realize this. They're like, how could these terrible things happen and no one be taken into account? And it's like, because you elected it. You literally elected it. It is in the Declaration of Independence. There is a list of what they call self-evident truths. Yeah. And we're very familiar with the first one, which is that all men are created equal. We find these truths to be self-evident, and all men are created equal. But the only way in which they are created equal is that they had the same creator. But the varieties of people are vast. Anyways, long story short, they have other ones. And one of the ones, that's the last one that is the most ignored.
Which
it
number?
is It's well, and they're listed only in semicolons. But the one that I'm referencing is, that the governments, they exercise their power by the consent of the governed.
Oh. But hold on. What about like Nazi Germany and the Jews went willingly into the gas chambers?
Did they?
Under coercion, though they were under coercion, maybe.
Correct.
We
Well,
had to
the coercion, it can also occur as duress, right? So coercion and duress are very, very much related. They are the exercise of authority over consent. Now, of course, these people, they didn't want to be rounded up and put into rail cars. Of course not. They didn't sign up for that. But it was the people who democratically elected Hitler. And so by the consent of the governed. Now we have to come back to the definitions of words. The word, this is a good one. This is a good one. It's going to take me a couple of minutes. But this word is representative.
Right.
The word representative, when you break it down, it actually is like if you have a representative, you are having someone represent you. Now, this is used in the legal court system all the time, and in lawful systems as well. You can have someone represent you, but the definition of that is that they are taking you, the presentation of you, and they're redoing it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's the definition of representation.
Okay.
And so the reason why this is the case is because if they are not representing you and they are speaking on your behalf, now they take on the risk of your crimes. And so lawyers can't do that. So in order to make sure that there's that distinction between them speaking on your behalf and speaking for you, two different things, they are now representing you. And as such, they're allowed to use free speech and make mistakes. And if you get implicated in their mistakes, that, oh, well, now you're guilty, at least they don't get caught because they weren't speaking on your behalf. They were representing you.
Oh, okay.
So that's what it boils down to.
So there's like a non-culpability in representing somebody.
They are held blameless for the crimes for which you are being brought forward to a held account.
Okay. I'm sorry, that is a big tangent, isn't it? But
here's the thing.
Mindset.
Let's go back to the political situation. Here they are, allowed to continue. Why? Because they're just representing you.
Yeah.
If you want to know who to hold to account for these crimes, look in the mirror.
Yeah.
This is why I stopped voting the first time I voted.
I see.
When I was 18 years old, I went to vote, and it was within 6 months of me voting that I realized my error. But what I had witnessed was no different than a bunch of people getting into a room. You know how kind of like a gym, imagine a gym, and it's like dodgeball, and there's the center line, and all of the dodgeballs are along the center line. And then you got two groups of people who are opposing each other come into the gym at the same time, and they're facing off each other. And it's basically a race to the center line to pick up the ammo, the votes. Mm-hmm. And they got to pick those votes up, and then they got to start throwing them at each other. And hopefully you can get enough votes thrown towards the other side so that those votes get negated and you can win. But here's the thing, with the way that the power has been escalated, the overreach of governments have escalated, it's no longer throwing dodgeballs back and forth. Now you're throwing grenades.
Especially
that's when I stopped voting. There was no way I was going to go and play that stupid game. I couldn't, and then I also had a sinking feeling in my heart about going and voting the first time, because I realized, oh my gosh, I partook in something that was told to me was civil. And yet, in order for me to feel like I did my part and I got my way, I'm being complicit in a system where the voice of the minority may be squashed by virtue of them simply being outnumbered. And I felt sick to my stomach that this system was even something that humanity could think could be civil. Like, we're just begging for problems with democracy. Begging for problems. So that to me was kind of like that big thing. I'm not going to be a part of it. But then as time went on, I started seeing more and more implications to this. And the fact that people are responsible is a self-evident truth. It's something inside the Declaration of Independence for a reason. It's because if your government sucks, that is not the government's fault.
Yeah, you get and what I topically said, I'm covering all this over without really even knowing or realizing or being aware of what you're saying, is that you get the government you deserve.
Yeah.
That you created. That
That's
this
correct.
is what you've allowed to be. Yeah.
Tom Campbell.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, finish.
No, that was it.
Tom Campbell said it really, really well. The quality of the leadership of a nation is directly related to the quality of consciousness of the people they lead.
Yeah. And that's what I mean, kind of thing, is it's about the consciousness that is in leadership. It is the people. And yet the dark shadow, which I think is what's, anyway, it's the quality of consciousness. And of course, it's not all of us, but it's, and then like you said, it's who votes. But it's more than that. It's a movement that is being presented and being lifted to be purified. I mean, in a bigger sense, it's like, okay, are you aware of this? I mean, who would have been aware of any of the darkness and the ugliness of this? I mean, it had to come to light, and because we have to see who we are, and that's really our goal, isn't it? I mean, just to bring that up anyway.
What I see. So what I see within this is we've become, as a society, very complacent in it's your responsibility. It's not my responsibility, right? And so it's over time they've conditioned us to take the responsibility off of our shoulders and make it so much easier for us. Right. And so then we just slowly gave it away and just said, yeah, you can take care of that. I don't want to do it anyway. Right. And it's really interesting, even in this, it's supposed to be a high impact group that I have, that we're going through this course, and we're supposed to do a project that, yes, brings joy, impacts the community, right? And in the course, when I feel about it, is supposed to stretch us. So we got to take on more responsibility, okay? And when I'm looking at this group of 16 people and the project that we're taking on, I'm like, everybody just wants it easy. It is so interesting. They just want it easy. Let's just go pick up garbage. Instead of, I get it, it impacts the community as we clean up our space. But for me, going and cleaning up garbage is not a stretch in any sense of the, right? To do a possible impact on some person's life. Like, let's say someone with cancer, or someone with MS, or someone, going to do a fundraiser and asking other people for money and actually, getting out there and trying to figure out how to do it. That is stretching. So this is what I see, even in a supposedly high impact, high motivated people, they still want it easy. And so we've just given a lot of the responsibility to the government and just said, you take care of that. And so then we've created all this consent, right?
To me, this is so generational. Your viewpoint and Paul's, you're the new generation, whatever. I mean, hold on a second. I see this government as like feudal. And anybody who bucks the system is like incredible to me. That bucks the feudal system. So it's different. The context is that you came from, because I was born during buy war bonds. Do your part for the war. Buy war bonds. Have a victory garden. These are the things you can do. And somebody told you, what is it that you can do? That was the kind of thing. Or, go to work to build planes and bombs. That's what you can do, especially women. Women came out of the house, they left, by the front door, for God's sake. They didn't go to the back in the kitchen and doing the garden and all. But so I've watched that, and I feel like, and the Catholic Church and the whole feudal system that we were raised on, don't question authority, pay your taxes in a feudal kind of a way. If you don't, then you're going to die, And I know taxes came on in 2000, what was it, 1915 or something, income tax started, or whatever it was. It wasn't that, but we were always paying taxes in a way, of a part of our money. And like the people, they were the adventurers, the one that came to the US, the ones that came to Canada. They left the old world system. And I'm just giving you impressions that I have. Like, anytime I wanted to start like a group of, like I started a union in a government job, because it just felt like everybody was in bed. We never got anything because, we got out of the goodness of the feudal system. So it's like, oh no, we're equals. We're equals in this system. But that's not the system that I came from. But you guys are different. And I'm really happy. At least this is how I see you. You're saying, okay, this is what's right. And there's a history for what we're talking about. And it was set by the elite governing system. It was by those people that were elite, not the peasants who had no real knowing of self-response. They did in the sense of survival, but not in governance. But then you take a small group, like we just looked at all Indigenous people, small groups. Yep. Then it becomes very different. But even there's the division of labor, instead of, like with my husband and I think it's a new phenomena with men and women that they are crossed. It's, what do you call it when you're both sexes? Whatever that word is.
Binary,
androgynous.
Androgynous. And so, like, the only thing is that he does things like take out the garbage, that he does. And I clean the toilet, whatever all that is. Anyway, that's the movement that I see happening, is that men are almost the same size as women, now. Women are taller. It's when I see couples walking down the street, they're the same size. I go, it used to be like this, Women were short and men were taller or whatever. Anyway, to me, those are all symbols of what's happening. Men are caring for babies. They're nurturing. They're allowed to be nurturing. That's probably cyclical. I don't know. But anyway, I think you guys are great. And I hope that Paul, that you would even think those thoughts. You would be such an outsider. I mean, even a hippie didn't think like you do,
No. The hippies were
totally.
I think they were too high to really think deeply.
Well, but barriers were broken.
Totally. Absolutely.
And with
And they were just as much weaponized
yes,
as any other minority.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I didn't take any drugs, but yet the expansion of consciousness was huge during that,
Mm-hmm.
and with or without drugs. So
Yes.
anyway,
Yeah.
so
Well, that was awesome. We got to
Let's-
define some words and stuff. Let's, yeah, I'll bring up my charts here. We'll talk about what's been going on this last little bit for.
and let's see how it relates to what we're talking about. Somehow it will.
Yeah,
The
sure.
synchronicity will be there.
Okay. First thing I'm going to bring up here is silver.
Oh, okay.
All right. I'll maximize this out here too. There we go. All right. So silver prices, they've been consolidating for quite some time. I put this box here. You know, we've got. Is that showing up nicely? Yeah, you can see how it's just been ranging back and forth between and the highs have been getting lower. The lows have been getting higher. So this consolidation is building up a lot of energy. And so I did a quick test here where whenever you see this kind of buildup of energy, when it breaks out of those constraints, typically speaking, the movement is about the same size as the impulse that brought it in. So when we take a look at this area, this consolidation range, and it's been a prominent range in the past as well. We can see a lot of price action has occurred in this range, and that means it's a high volume area. Well, it dropped in here, came down to this low, and then it came back in from this point here.
Yeah.
And this distance here is $4.15. So by taking the same amount of space, we can say, okay, if we're going to have a breakout, it's either going to go above that area, that amount, or below. But if it goes above, this is our expected price point. When that energy blowout occurs and we end up taking that movement, it'll probably bring us up to $39. Now, if it goes below, it could do that. We might still see some more market manipulation. Anything's possible. It would go down below, and that brings us to a level that is much further below this long-term trend line. This trend line has been going on and on, I think since the beginning of the year. Let me just zoom out here. Yeah, so this trend here, this is all the way from COVID.
Wow.
So this a long trend line. Oh yeah, that's where it was there at the end of COVID, right after COVID started, 1177.
Okay.
And that trend line has remained extremely strong ever since.
Yeah.
So if the price were to come down and have that explosive energy downwards, chances are it would go below that very strong trend line. And I don't know. I could see the price coming down and testing this, but not going so far beyond it. Like, that's a long ways down past that trend line that I don't think that the market would sustain. I believe that if we were to come down and test that lower range of this this is a major pivot point. This consolidation zone might be tested down here one more time. And that would actually coincide with the trend line. You know, this is if it was to project out till July. That's where that level would meet up with the trend line. So that could very well be the target. I know for myself, I'd be buying already, because this trend line is not going to, this is something that's going to be left very soon. Already, when it came down, it didn't touch the trend line. So that there is a significant low because it didn't touch it like the others have in the past.
So you're saying buy silver now?
So right now, silver's a great buy all the way down to this line. And when it breaks out, my thought is that it would break out above. Back in again here. It's going to break out above, and the next impulse, the next high, will probably be around $39. That's silver. Let's move on to gold. Gold, since that big high that we had there, the one night we were on the Dragon Riders call there, that high hit while we were on the call. And ever since then, it has had a difficult time coming back up. But I was sharing this last night. You know, when the price retreated from that all-time high and came down to here, that was a pretty good retracement. But we have to consider that this here didn't provide much resistance in the past. It blew through that quite quickly in just a matter of a couple of days. Then it blew up, then it went right straight up to here. So this area here was always, to me, kind of like a weak pivot point. If it was to come down, you know, this wouldn't provide much resistance. This would provide more resistance simply because that was the all-time high, and there was a pretty good dip down. When it went up, it didn't provide much resistance, and it continued that run right up to there. So this is actually the movement. And when it dropped, you know, that retracement wasn't enough. It had to pull down and retest that level. Right there.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we've retested it, we can see that we're creating already. Here, we'll zoom in a little bit. We can see that already right now we're creating a new high that's higher than the previous, which also ended up, and now we are beating out the high before that as well. So I believe that this is going to provide us the support for the price to continue going to the all-time high and then beyond. Last night, I did market analysis. We were just touching this line right here. The growth from here to the all-time high is 8.8%. Right now, if I was leverage trading gold, I would be placing pretty much everything in the account on this movement. That would be a great 10%, probably going to occur, you know, I would say probably over the next week.
Wow, next week?
Yeah.
Mm.
It'll likely be something along this line here where, oops, there, crazy little string of light there. Okay, here we go. I think it'll be something along this line here where we come up, we find some resistance, we come back down and we test this support and then head back up. Onwards, here's the Japanese markets. They are, I'm going to zoom out just so we can see a bigger picture here. We can see that we created a high. We came into this major pivot zone here. Came into that area and we did go higher than the previous high. That was just in the middle of last week. And so now that we went that high, looks like we've actually found support at a similar line in the past, right here. And if that maintains support, we're probably going to create a new high. At the very least, we'll be challenging this upper end of this consolidation zone.
Well,
yeah, go ahead, Maureen.
I have to leave because it's there's a reawaken that I need to go to. So
okay, sounds good.
I definitely want to go to that, and I got all wrapped up in this. And thank you so much. And Audrey, talk to you later. Oh, Audrey. Oh, Audrey's eating or something.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Audrey? I stay online and eat. You know, don't make me feel bad. Anyway, take good care and thank you so much.
Oh no, my
You're
camera
so
just
welcome.
left again.
Oh, weird, eh?
What happened?
Thanks, Maureen. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's super weird about your camera.
Yeah, it just gone again. I can't. Yeah, that's it.
Huh. Well, US 30 We are right now butting up against a major resistance point right now. So if they are able to maintain their obligations to make the economy look great for their investors, then we might see this yet again climb up to the next resistance, probably around the 43,600 level. Now, if we're not able to, the drop will be significant. The next impulse, I would imagine, will find some support, temporary support around 40,006. Moving on to the crypto markets, Bitcoin, after its big jump there at the end of this was the 7th and 8th of May coming in. We saw this consolidation here over the last week and a half now. It's been, what is that, 12 days? 12 days since that. Hey, Maureen's back. So, and the last 12 days, the price has been consolidating, wrapping back and forth between these high and the lows. But then here we are. Sunday, we created a new high to beat out. We actually went outside of that range. Then, dropping back down, we can see that the low did not even come close. Really, we still had a long ways to go to meet these lows down here. And as a result, we can see that the price has been climbing back up again. I expect the price to continue to climb right for the next little while. If we go back down again, my bets would be to start buying at the 100. This is $100,700 mark. That's where I would start buying. Already, I think that we're going to see a movement coming in that take us up to the all-time high to challenge that, probably within, I would say, the next couple of weeks. However, we are also witnessing something occur at the same time, which is rare. Usually, Ethereum and Bitcoin, they don't make the same moves at the same time. Typically speaking, I mean, even if we take a look at what's happened over the last little while, here's what happened at the middle of December, and then just straight decline. Well, that there did not coincide with the same price pattern that Bitcoin experienced. In fact, we can see that Bitcoin in that same period really only dropped down. What is this here? Yeah, so there was a decline, of course, but it wasn't straight down. And then Bitcoin started to come up, and Ethereum still didn't. In fact, Ethereum didn't go up. It didn't break out of that downward trend until here, and it was only consolidating. Here's where it made a decisive movement, and it bounced up above that long-term trend line. And yeah, sure, it's going to do that eventually. But the fact that the movement happened at the same time, just 12 days ago, at the same day and time as Bitcoin, that tells me that we're not just getting a whole bunch of people who are, wanting Bitcoin. Now we're getting institutions who are coming in and boosting up that Ethereum because the altcoin season is here. And so I believe right now we're going to see, because this is a big movement. This came up pretty fast, and there hasn't been a very big retracement. The retracement, yeah, sure, the price has dropped 14% from the high that it created there on May 13th. However, the impulse itself was a 52% rise. And I do like to use Fibonacci for some tools. And when we take a look at the measurements, we can see that Fibonacci retracement has been hit. But it would make sense to me, especially after blasting through this long-term trend line, that we're going to come back to retest that. So my bets are right now that I would buy starting now for sure, but I would dollar cost my average all the way down to this trend line. If it touches that line, just stock up, because it's going to be a big movement. The next resistance is all the way up here. That's 3,400. From 2,500 to 3,400, that's another 35% increase in price. So very, 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 very good from where we are right now. If it comes down and retests that long-term trend line and then goes up, that's a 5,700% or 57% return. XRP, I'm not going to really analyze this, but we do see new high that beat out quite a few highs in the past. So it's also showing promise. That has developed since the 8th of May. ADA, this one in particular, I'm going to stick a little bit longer on. This one in particular, I have switched my position. So in the past, especially after we had this downward trend here, I was actually shorting on my trades, meaning I was waiting with dollar. I was selling ADA as it was going down so that I had dollars instead of ADA. So that when the price was nice and low, I could buy the ADA back again. So I did that. But I was still in a position where if the price went up and it reached this line, I would have been liquidated. I would have lost probably 90% of what I put in. So I was actually shorting, banking on the price going down. But here, right here, because we found that support and bounced up, I have now changed my strategy. So I'm not shorting ADA anymore. Now my liquidation price is right here. So if the price comes down, I'm just going to keep on buying. Because now my bias is on ADA. So I'm now holding more value in ADA than I am in USD. I've reversed my position. Now, I do this, of course, I'm doing this on a very short time frame. My chart here is on the 4-hour chart. So every little line represents 4 hours of time, price action. So this is zoomed in. For people that are trading like more, long-term, holding the currencies, they're going to watch the daily chart. But they're going to be making choices with the same, they can make the same choices with the same methodology. It's just going to happen across a longer time frame. I'm looking at things from a very, very zoomed in perspective. Even if we were to go out to the weekly chart here, and we bring the entire price action of ADA, of the entire history, we can see that we've only just begun. And that the price fluctuations that we've seen here are only a result of very small market capitalization. But during this time here, the market capitalization, the volume of ADA has been rising. The value might not be as high as it was, but the amount of ADA that people are holding is a lot higher, even at these lower price points. So now when the price comes up, that market capitalization will be in much, much higher simply because there's higher volume. Go ahead, Maureen. Just unmute yourself.
So how do you tell that if people are they're holding it, more people are holding it? What are the indicators? Is it this bottom line here?
That's a good question. Now, this is more so when we take a look at the chart on market cap.
Okay.
On coin market cap. I'm going to go to ADA. Let's bring it up here. When I bring up this chart here, this is showing me the price, but then this is showing me the market capitalization.
Oh, okay.
And the last time the price was here, like where we are right now,
yeah,
at 73 cents, if we go back in time to before this big rise,
right.
This point here was February 2021.
Okay.
So if we go to February 2021 here, there it is. We can see that the value of the coins were the same, right? But I'm going to
Okay.
now go to market. Oh. Now I'm going to go to, can you still hear me okay?
Yeah.
My headphones just died, so I just got to make sure that my audio is good. Okay. So when we go to the market capitalization for that, this was at this point here. This is representing the value of the currency that is being held, right?
Okay.
Sure, we have the same market capitalization here at the same price, but there's more. There is more in circulation today, and so there's a higher volume of ADA that is being held in people's wallets today than there was back then. So when the price goes up, it's going to be a greater market capitalization than what we experienced before.
I see.
Does that help? Does that help?
Yeah, it's the first time, so I'm just letting it just sink in, and I'll get it from there. So that's all right. The next time I ask,
I can't hear you.
Oh, huh. Okay.
Let me just see
Can you
here.
read lips? No, I'm kidding. It's all right. So we'll just go on.
Check 1 2.
2 2.
Check 1 2. This is weird. I'm just going to try reloading my meeting space here.
Okay.
Be right back.
Okay.
Okay, now I can hear you. Perfect.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I know. I was just saying that that's the first time that I've opened a space for that to integrate. So we'll see. The next time it'll be better. Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I share it, you'll catch a little bit more.
Yeah. Exactly.
So with ADA, let's come back to that chart. With ADA, my position has shifted. And so now instead of shorting it and wanting the price to go down, where I would make more if the price went down. Now, if the price goes down, I'll actually the market will be working against my position because I now hold more ADA than I do
dollars.
The dollars. Yeah.
So right now would be a good time. I want to start buying on what do you call that, dollar cost average?
Yeah.
I want to do that with a few, and ADA is probably one of them right now.
The 3 right now that I'm seeing have the greatest, where they are at a very good support right now. We might still see a price coming down, but because even we take a look at this on the daily chart, this high here, this is considerably higher than what was here. When we take a look at we zoomed in on this, this does go higher by 1 pivot point. We can see I've got the pivot points marked.
Yeah.
Let's zoom back out a little bit here. I don't want to go too far because I want you to see how this one here, that's where the high was.
Okay.
We went above that.
I see.
We went to the next pivot point above that, which was this low here.
Okay.
So that being the line that we reached on this impulse, that was kind of my indicator. That was my indicator. And this was back on last Monday. When it came back down again and started testing this support line, that's when I was like, time to buy. I am now switching my position. I don't think we're going down anymore. This high here was a clear indicator. And then I was just being patient for it to go on sale, so I didn't buy it at these high prices here. And this is when I started buying right here. And I've just been buying ever since.
So I'm going to go ahead and buy. How do I do dollar? I probably need to make an appointment. I noticed. I think with Den you have you have an ongoing appointment.
Yeah,
would
some of the
do that.
members have maybe
Yeah.
that's what we should do is we should chat about you upgrading your membership so that
Okay.
you and I can meet up every week and we can do this kind of thing because that's what Den does is that she just meets with me every week and we maintain her accounts together.
Yeah, that's what I would like to do.
Okay.
Okay, so let's do that. I don't know. You want to do it now? As long as we have energy to get here, or what's the time?
I could, yeah, we could close this down, and I've got about half an hour. If you want, we can do that, or we can book it for tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow. Okay, let's book it for tomorrow. The reason because I want Ron to be present.
Yeah. That
Just
sounds
in case
good.
you didn't hear me the first time. I have an echo.
I heard that, yeah.
So let's make an appointment tomorrow.
That's probably
I'm so
because
Irish. I'm sorry.
it's probably the reason why the echo is probably because my my headphones died, right? So the audio is feeding back through. Let me just.
I do have headphones too, but I've got the kind that you plug in, and maybe at some point I can learn how to use those. I've got.
Oh
this.
yeah, yeah.
Where do I put that? I put that someplace, and I can just go like that. Yeah. I can be cool like the rest of you guys. With headphones. I want to be cool. Okay, so why don't we make
tomorrow? Tomorrow we have Dragon Riders at 11 my time. That's 10 o'clock your time. We could do it, say 12 o'clock your time at 1 o'clock my time.
Okay, hold on. Let me make sure I get Ron's okay on this.
Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, Maureen, I've got all afternoon. So if something works better, you guys figure that out.
All right, will do. Ron? 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 Is 12 o'clock okay to have an appointment with Paul tomorrow to go over our accounts? Okay, I'm going to upgrade our membership. Okay, that's gonna work. 12 o'clock. So let's do it at 12. And let me just put that in my calendar.
Yeah, well, and I'll send you an email as well, Maureen.
Okay, good. Yeah, send me something. That'd be great. And then I like that we can go over the accounts, and then we can have whatever private, conversations we want, or not private, but personal, probably.
Yeah.
Like I want to talk about my grandson and my son-in-law. And that kind of thing. So that would be good. And how long is it? The appointment, is it half an hour or an hour?
You know what? I book aside an hour.
Okay.
But I mean, we might be done in half an hour. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. I schedule off an hour for this kind of thing.
Okay. So, and how much more is that, Paul?
It's $777 minus the $150 you already paid.
$777.
Yeah. So what the math is? Let me just bring up my calculator here.
I got it too. It's like 627. Is that US dollars or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 627 US.
Okay, so then, so how would we pay you?
Well, I very much prefer that we do it privately.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
And
so why don't we do a transaction into Cardano and you send me an equivalent? Okay. We'll just we'll round it down to 600 US. And that's how much ADA you send me.
Okay. Okay. All right. So then so then what we'll do tomorrow is we'll put $600 in ADA. Yeah. For my bank, and then you'll show me how to transfer it to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, all right. Good. Let's do that then.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. So yeah, I've got us there for my time, 1 o'clock tomorrow. And You should get an email as well with the details.
Good. Yeah. So then I have a written kind of thing, so I know what's going on. Okay, good, Paul. That'll be great.
Awesome.
Thank you. See you tomorrow then on our call and all that
Yeah.
other stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
wonderful. Wonderful. Have a good rest of the day.
You too.